So let's have a look at the weekly insurance registration numbers for cars, electric cars in China, and we can see that Tesla kind of rebounded quite nicely. NIO, with a strong, really nice month, really nice previous week at 4,700, and it's the same kind of trend as we've said previously. That as we go beyond the first 2 weeks of the month, usually NIO's deliveries kind of picks up, and it's been this kind of trend, for a while now. Can see that, for example, in April we had like 2,000, 2,500 the second week, almost 3,000 week after that, then 5,000, and then almost 4,000. So yeah, it's definitely that kind of trend. Although for Xpeng investors, I think it's a bit more difficult, because whereas NIO has their, let's say, right now it looks like 3,000, 3,500 is the lowest that they usually get. Xpeng is sitting around 1,500 or thereabouts. So yeah, these numbers need to improve for Xpeng in the long run. Then quickly on LiAuto, still strong, although they are, as you remember, selling not only electrics, they actually sell mostly, hybrids. Then we can see also on the lithium carbonate price, which is very important for the margins. Remember that maybe 4 or 5 quarters ago, the CEO of NIO, Li Bin, said that with every percentage downturn in lithium carbonate price, they would have a certain amount of also improvement in gross margin. I forgot exactly how much that was, but this is definitely improving the margins. You can see, the bad margins that we had, after second half of 2022 and in 2023 is a lot also depending on the lithium carbonate price, which is usually going into the cathode of the batteries. Although, the cathode is like roughly 3% of the entire battery, in my opinion. It's not like, it doesn't sound a lot in terms of weight of the entire battery pack, but that's a lot of the expensive material sits in the cathode. So yeah, that's why it affects the battery pack price. And that the battery pack price is maybe the biggest part of the car price right now. So let's have a look at the trends, and as if you've been following me, you can see that I follow the last 7 weeks of the trend, so to say, for NIO, Xpeng and LiAuto. NIO is the green, Xpeng is the blue, and LiAuto is the gray one. You can see that NIO started this last 7 weeks very strong, peaked at 6,700 4 weeks ago, but then was quite a nice drop at the beginning. These two lower bars for NIO are the first 2 weeks of June. But that was expected, as I mentioned already in the video. And you can see we're kind of picking up now, 4,700, which is the third strongest bar over the past 7 weeks. So I like that quite a lot. LiAuto obviously going very strong as usual, and Xpeng not that strong. So I think for NIO this is good, and if you calculate it, we can see now we are now up to 13,200 roughly deliveries for NIO in this month. And this includes, until the 23rd of June. So how many more days are left? We can see that it should be 5 Monday, and the entire this week is going to be the working days, and then June is 30 days. So yeah, 5 working days. I've seen on the internet that sometimes NIO works 6 days, so you could say maybe 6 days. And if we assume, let's say, anywhere between 650 to 750 cars delivered per single working day. So if you take 5 times, let's say 5 times 700, that's like at the bare minimum, 3,500. But you remember that, NIO kind of increases the pace at the end of the month. So as you see, we are now at 4,700. So if you take 4,700 divided by, let's say 5. 4,700 divided by 5. So that's 940 cars per day. And if NIO, let's say just improve that even a little bit by end of this month, you could easily get up to, 1,000 cars a day. And that's like what, 5,000 to 6,000 cars depending on how many days they work. And we would be, at 13,200 plus whatever it is, 5,000 or 6,000. So almost 18 to 19,000. And yeah, so I think this is very interesting, because if you go back to the delivery expectations, we can see that for the June month of this year, I don't think now we will reach the 2,000 to 22,500, but maybe we'll reach, the 18 to 19,000, which is actually very important. That's gonna help us to come right in between these two, numbers, 54,000 to 56,000, which the company gave us their business outlook just a few weeks back at their Q1 earnings report. And if these numbers are correct, I mean, most likely they are. At the bare minimum, I should expect at least 17,500. So I definitely like this. The blue bar, which is 2024, will be much better than the green bar of last year, which already was much better than the two previous bad months of April and May. And looking into terms of, how much that would mean in terms of NIO's gross margins and stuff, you can see that the revenue, so this was the low bar here, is the Q1 that was just reported, and this is simply because the low amount of cars delivered that first quarter. But we see that in Q2, the revenue should be at least 2.3 billion US dollar. And as I always keep talking about, I keep an eye on the yellow bar here, and you can see that the yellow one is the other sales, which is not directly related to a number of cars sold. In the long term, it kinda is, because it's has to do with all the other sales that they do in the NIO houses and services. But in the long term, I think this is already almost at a billion US dollar run rate. So this is gonna definitely help the company. Every time they double their sales from now on, you could expect like roughly a 50% to 100% increase as well in their other sales, and in the long term much more than that. So these are my expectations. I think this 58,000 maybe a bit too high. I think the real number will be closer to 55 or 56, but I mean, it's definitely close, so it's not too bad. Now the big question is gonna be, how our NIO's delivery are gonna look like immediately starting from the first month of Q3, which is July. If we hold the pace at 20,000 cars roughly in first month of July, which is the first month of that quarter, and in, let's say, also roughly 20,000 in August, they would leave an opening to increase at least to 25,000 in September. I think that's possible. So yeah, it's very interesting. Maybe you could say that my numbers are a bit, maybe slightly optimistic in terms of the deliveries in July and August, but I'm still looking forward to see how many cars they sell in July and August, because that gives us an indication on if 70,000 is realistic, or maybe if I should reduce it to 65. In any case, I don't think that's gonna be a huge implication, because even if they sell, let's say, let's go with 60,000, it's not gonna be, it's gonna be very well for the revenue for the company overall. And I think if you just be patient, these companies soon will have 2.5-3 billion at the bare minimum every single quarter in revenue, and this is for a company sitting at 8.5 billion in market cap. So yeah, I think the net loss is also gonna decrease as time goes on. My projections are maybe net loss of 300 to 400, maybe at worst 500 million US dollar in Q4 of this year. So it's gonna definitely be most likely less than the ones that we had in these 3-4 past quarters, with around 800 to 700 million. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this week. I think overall I'm very happy with the NIO's numbers. I think these are, if you look at 4,700, maybe 5,000, 5,200 next week, yeah, that's gonna do really well for our monthly delivery numbers. And as that goes in, we're gonna just quickly also look at the final graph here. A second, please. So my expectation, if we manage to hit 18,000 here, so a bit below than my very optimistic June numbers, we will still be, way ahead than last year. Actually, last year by July, you would add to this number in green 10 more thousand, roughly 11,000. So you would get around 55,000 cars for NIO delivered by end of July. This year we are at 66,000 by end of May. You add to that almost 20,000, let's say 18,000, we would be at 84. So again, this year we are looking to be at July by 84,000 cars, whereas last year we were at 55, 54. So yeah, thank you for watching, and like the video and subscribe please if possible, and see you in the next one.